Welcome back to Trekyards, everybody. He is Commander Cocking.
He is Captain Foley.
And I'm going to tell you a story. I was born. I grew up. Lots happened in my life.
Yep. Let us sit down, children, and listen. On the campfire of the warming proto-drive. Its gentle hum will warm us in this dark night as we tell the tale.
Today we're talking about episode 16 of Prodigy called Prelude. And we learned a few things. We get some answers, thank goodness.
But what do you think of the episode, Stuart? Full spoilers! And of course, trying to try a full spoiler review tonight. Breakdown scene by scene, to which there are many set scenes. What do you think, Stuart?
I thought it was alright. It's not one of the best ones, but hey, at least we got some answers. We saw some stuff and some cool stuff at that TOS Medusan ship. That was pretty awesome. And the TOS Medusan box again. And the goggles too, which so a lot of nice little touches there. Learned about Rock's backstory. Jankom Pog was quite interesting as well. Got to see a Tellarite ship from Enterprise. That was nice. And learned that it was pre-Federation that he was launched.
He's an old guy.
Yeah. So we've uncovered quite a bit. We kind of know Gwen's story already. We didn't get Murph's, obviously. And we don't know Dal's because Dal doesn't remember his. So I think it's good. Janeway clued in pretty quick that these are just kids. And maybe we need to be going after this diviner.
Let's try and find him.
That going on. We got we got the diviner's story. Got to see like flashbacks of first contact, which was quite interesting. And yeah, lots of answers in this episode, so that's great. And I love that Janeway's clued in now, and kind of has the right mindset. So we'll have to see where this goes from here. But I was happy with the episode. I wasn't ecstatic or overwhelmed. There's nothing that really, was great for me. It was just all like, yeah, good. It's about time we're getting some answers. So, but nice little touchstones here and there. Like I said, the Medusan stuff and all that. So, good job, Prodigy guys. I enjoyed it. How about you?
Well, the phrase I walked away with thinking was, this is Exposition the episode. Next.
Yes, it is.
I think you clue in quite quickly when the action to it last week sort of just, if you watch it as a binge, it would suddenly stop and everyone would sit and talk. So it's a really interesting right turn into pause mode, and it feels like a huge pause mode. I mean, it makes sense in the neutral zone, which they do confirm that place isn't in Romulan space, so the map was wrong. So it's a good place to hide because neither side should go there. So that makes sense. It's just last week we were obviously confused where things were, but it was good. I mean, it was none of the stories were as enthralling as they could have been, but they gave each enough time to be good and enjoyable, and it almost, in a small sense, now we've seen, literally from sort of when it's important up until they get captured, it pulls away the curtain on four of the 6 people. So it almost tells you the backstories aren't that important. The story to come is important because there's 4 more and then another 20. So again, like I said a few weeks in a row, they're throwing the story plots, just throwing them quickly out in a good way to progress the story, and to throw in that many backstories, one done, move on. Without there's no sense of, well, how did Rock Talk get to that planet? Like, there's no, that you might ask that, but it's not played in that way of wanting to ask questions. They're all pretty straightforward of, here's this equals this, here's this equals this, great, cool. So it's very interesting in that respect, even seeing the Chakotay stuff, answering questions. Although I guess now we know, where Chakotay is, he's in the future still, so now at some point they've got to go back to Solum, present for Diviner, to rescue Chakotay, which is a fun concept. Unless, that future presumably has been undone because of his timeline changes. So I guess Chakotay they've got to go to an alternate timeline to pick up Chakotay and Bird Person, Rick and Morty reference. But hey, now we know. Unless they obviously say that he then stole another ship and came back. But, one more step. But it was good.
And they mentioned Temporal anomaly. They've seen Samuel's fan film. It got mentioned in Star Trek. It's mentioned once or twice, but never where we wanted it, or never very impactful. It's mentioned twice in this episode.
We got three. Temporal anomaly.
I knew you'd be excited about
Real happy about that. Yes. And it's a good looking anomaly. I think all the Solom stuff was really nice. You know, to be able to create the scale that they presented, budget-wise, my god. So doing stills, totally fine. Visuals were great. There's videos come about the ship that first contacted because there's problems with that. Obviously, you guys could tell. But sequence-wise, really nice, well told.
Now, was I mistaken in seeing that ship that made first contact was a Prometheus class?
It was,
and not a Protoss? Yeah, okay. Good.
Prometheus is bad.
Yeah, we speculated about that. Yeah, okay.
But mostly, Stuart, check out our video. Obviously, you'll be filming with me today, so check out the thing we filmed today. That was nice to see. And yeah, we've got obviously the Tellarite ship and the TOS Medusan. That was beautiful. Although, it's funny then to see on the edge of the Alpha and Delta Quadrant, there's a TOS Medusan ship with Kazon from the Delta Quadrant who travelled that far, who are now slavers selling people to the just Delta Quadrant rim people, Diviner, who are still using TOS box tech that was developed, I guess, by some, not Federation. It's a funny old thing to see, because that isn't the past. That was like when Gwen was adult Gwen, so that was a year, 2 years ago. So there's Kazon attacking Alpha Quadrant people. Well, no, you know what I mean? Like, either Medusans went real far or the Kazon went real far. It's a funny old thing to see, because there's so much Kazon in this, which was great.
Yeah, and I think they used the same model, the same Kazon model, and the same Klingon model for a lot of the crowd scenes and stuff.
I mean, you can't really tell unless you're Trekyards and you freeze frame, but we won't do it. It's obvious and it's absolutely fine. It's just great to see them. You know, I'd rather see more Kazon than less, and this is the most ever been. Most of Kazon have been in Star Trek for like 20 years, so sweet. Not in a good way, obviously. They're slavers, they're being horrible, which is real sad, because it means that slave race people are slaving people to sell for money. That's real sad.
Yeah. Well, we learned that the Diviner has been searching for 20 years because of the time anomaly they went through. He got thrown back further. This new one, the Vindicator, as she's called, is only... She just appeared on the scene 3 years ago, so that's why she hasn't aged.
Mm-hmm. Which means she's also fresh with the drama of purpose, which I'm sure we'll see.
And yeah, she infiltrated Starfleet, rose through the ranks pretty quick to get to Ensign, which is fine. I mean, she's very dedicated, very smart. We've seen that she's smart, and then you get past episodes where Janeway is impressed with her. So it makes sense that she would fly through the Academy.
Well, no, it's like you said. She's probably a real person who she killed and took the place of. That's far easier.
Maybe.
I mean, the 3D models of the Trill and the Lalian, I would not say look super comparable. They look different enough that it's not literally the same face. Like, it didn't feel to me like the same face, but with a ridge added. I thought they were different enough to be like, yeah, it's a different character. It's fine.
There was no explanation for that, and I wish there was. Because yeah, she says she infiltrated them and whatever, but it's not really made clear. Because somebody that's in Starfleet needs a history and a past.
Yeah.
And yeah, so hopefully that'll get explained at some point. But yeah.
But yeah, these are... I mean, we kind of guessed the idea of the sending lots of Revs and lots of Dreadnought. Like, that was all implied in the Rev 12.
100 of them.
100 of them, yeah. We have a 1% chance. Let's send 100. That's how percentages work. All 100 cannot make it, because all 100 have a 1% chance. It's not that 100 equals 100% chance. They all have a 1% chance. But I'm very glad, because, I mean, already the game disproves this, but even though they implied or inferred that they all got destroyed, they're very clear not to say we're the only ones to survive. Already it's proven false by the game, so because they don't want to undo the idea of we can bring in 3 in season 4 and 2 more in season 7, you know, because I imagine each stage of pissed offness, you know, if one Diviner dude comes in like 1 hour after the time jump, he'll be real fired up versus 20 years is more chill. You know, you can play with that, not to. So I'm pretty sure they did not throw that under the bus as a concept.
And the thing is, they were all in a temporal anomaly, which is closing. Some of them got destroyed, sure, but 100 ships. It's very likely that they're scattered all throughout time now, and one could show up at any point, honestly. So who knows how that's going to play out. But yeah, I mean, learning that the Diviner was kind of on Starfleet's side, like, be open to their ideas, let's, you know, explore, whatever. And then the Civil War started, and Starfleet didn't want to get involved, as per Starfleet. And and then of course Chakotay's temporal anomaly kind of flung him there, and he went there for help. It was quite interesting, and I liked his first officer. I don't know if he is an Aurelian or not, but it's a cool bird character model. I think it looks really, really good, especially in that uniform. So it'll be interesting to find out, exactly what Chakotay's doing if he tries to get back through the anomaly with another ship.
Well, they say it closes, so he'd have to have got through before the 100 went through.
They could be looking for a way to reopen it. It could reopen.
Well, also, how did you open a temporal
wormhole
anomaly? Because you don't just open temporal anomalies. That's actually a super rare thing in Star Trek. Normally, it's a drive or a go around the sun. Although, in fairness, he can just go around the sun. But isn't that weird? Chakotay's now in an alternate future on a planet that left its entire fleet, and they certainly imply it's like everything, as if now there's a dead world and he's alone or with his bird guy. It's very like sad. I mean, it's real sad that we won't necessarily see more Chakotay, but also you could argue he found a way 30 years later to travel 80 years earlier. So you can still have old man Chakotay, we've talked about this before, and then go rescue him before he becomes old man Chakotay, and then you rescue him earlier than he left. So time travel mechanics. But he's not in our timeline anymore.
I'm so happy that Janeway's clued into what's going on now.
I thought you would be, yeah.
So that kind of relieved me quite a bit.
No, I thought of you when she said that, because you don't like smart people making silly mistakes. I think in a binge watch, she would come to the conclusion quite quickly, but as a week to week, it feels not as quick. But at least, instantly she works out why, how, and who. Good. We've had 5, this being the 6th. It feels as if we've now transitioned to a new form of, because back in the olden days of season 1.1, there was a halfway point, a big epic reveal, boom, moving on. This is now how we've had that transition. Now Janeway is no longer chasing them to be negative. Now the Diviner is back. So that we've now had that movement to part 2 of season 1, part 3. Now it's season 1, part 4. So now she's going to be a goodie, I assume. Janeway trying to help, or just knocked out and. I wonder if Divine will just steal the Dauntless. I wonder if that's what's going to happen.
I'm pretty certain. Yeah, he's going to try to take over. He has Essentia, or the Vindicator, to help him. She knows the systems and stuff. So yeah.
And it's not a huge. Well, it should not be a huge crew. That's just how the ship design is going. And then we saw, and I'm glad they showed this. The Dreadnought is immune to phasers. So that's a pretty powerful thing. And then, probably they'll take over. And then you'll have hologram Janeway advising one team, and real Janeway being the sort of tell us all kill XYZ on the Dauntless. They'll kind of go to their own roles again. Yeah, I can see that being the case.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because even though we are getting answers, it's still like there's so much that could happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be amazing to go for the ride. So, speaking of going for the ride, the Tellarites, again, it was nice to see their ship. We learned that the orphans get enlisted for deep space assignments, and so there was 30 people on the ship. After Jankom did all his repairs and whatnot, he had to leave because it could support 29, but not 30. So we see a Tellarite escape pod, and we see the Kazon immediately scoop that up. So that was kind of a nice story, actually. We kind of learned a little bit about the Tellarite, and it was good to see the ship again. There's nice little things in this episode for sure. Poor Jankom Pog.
Yeah, they had a lot of headway to a lot of space to get, because he's a quirky character, and they sort of found a way of why he calls himself by his name.
Yeah,
because clearly the way he fixed the ship is implied it's like several days or weeks, an excessive amount of time that he's just formed this almost tick. So I like it's silly, but I like it. It's at least a reason, and certainly very Khan-like setup. Even if they're just barely in the Delta Quadrant, a la Tars Lamora, from Tellar to there at sublight, because that's what they're at. Yep, 200 years, fine, cool. And then what a lad. Sacrificed himself entirely didn't even hesitate. Obviously, they don't explain even for a second why they couldn't get the real engineer out. They just don't.
Yeah, like Jankom doesn't try it himself. I understand the robot was a little defective.
Yes.
And wouldn't do it, but yeah.
But it's like, if there's 95 problems, and what if problem 60 will kill the ship? Let's not do them in order with one training. Let's get the real engineer, do them twice as fast, fix the ship. So there's certainly a skip there of plot for funny, which is, it was fine, it was nice. But just sort of the why, and certainly Passenger vibes. Passenger and Pitch Black, I mean, it's almost entirely, in a sense, the Passenger film. I was waiting for the Jennifer Lawrence, Tellurite to come in and talk to him, and it's fine, but it was good. Selfless act was a real boss move, and it shows he had to become a better engineer by fixing his ship over the weeks and days, and yeah.
And the Rock story didn't impress me. Rock Talk. The Rock.
Yeah, Dwayne's story, man.
From Voyager.
Oh, I wonder if that was inspired, actually, because it kind of had a similar vibe, Rock Talk Rock to Rock story. Yeah, now I think about that. Even like the way it was, there was an area and then a top area that you viewed down that was very much like, that must have been a little subtle in joke.
Yeah. It just, that story didn't do much for me, honestly. The Medusan story, like Zero's story, was good. Much better.
Yeah.
And so was Jankom Pog's, actually.
I found Rock Talks too long. It dragged a bit.
Yes, for what it was, yes.
Yeah, for what it was. Because it was sweet in a sense, but there wasn't really a reveal feel. Like, it would have been fine if there was some Klingon jumping into a thing or some extra universe addition, but it was just any sci-fi show fight, move on. It had a very... It was removed from Trek a bit too much, I think. Because, I don't know, maybe if they had linked... I know this would have been more expensive, but if they had the hero character sort of swap outfits to be like, one time he's Kales, one time he's the Andorian, hero. Like, change costumes, so like they're doing Klingon night, Andorian night. Kind of a way of like having... because how many times do you watch the same non-fight? Whereas if you did that, it would at least make it really original, and you could you know what I mean? That would kind of,
Yeah, no, I agree. There's just something missing from it that it was just like, all right, fine. It did drag on a little too long.
Because the other ones were so much more engaging.
Yeah.
Those I would have rather had more time for those. And not just that, I was really wanting, right at the end, Janeway moment. To see Voyager, Chakotay and Janeway in the uniform. You've already got the Janeway asset. You've already got the Chakotay head. I was like, come on, show us one scene from Voyager, a new scene. That was the chance. I mean, Rock Talk was fine. Give us 1.5 minutes of that,
As soon as they asked Janeway, I'm like, yes. Then all we hear about is Molly, the rent of the litter, and it's like, really? No.
Yeah, it's fine, but imagine if you suddenly cut to Janeway in the ready room. They're not overly hard sets to build. Chakotay walks in, they have a nice heart-to-heart base in season 6, and you're like, damn, Robert Beltran got lines, and you got to bond, and they could explain why Janeway cares about Chakotay for the audience that doesn't know. Because the audience, who are the kids who are watching the show for the first time, that scene would have been perfect to assess why we should care about Chakotay, who for them, most people, is just an average person who she knows. Wouldn't have been that expensive to build, let's be honest, the briefing room Voyager.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. That's what I was kind of waiting for as well. Anyway, it just ends with Janeway getting knocked unconscious. She goes to talk to the guy, and not aware that he's the diviner, but then walks in on Dreadnought and the Vindicator and gets, Kirk chopped. Boom.
Mm-hmm. Kirk feels strong. I'm going to have to note for the future that the Dreadnought is incapable of detecting movement walking up to the room, because this robot would absolutely be keeping an eye out for people coming in. So we've got to they cannot detect close range things moving. I would have detected this. It's a brand new Dreadnought, 3 years of whatevering. This thing is not rusty. This thing is not old. This thing is less capable than we thought. / plot. Power of plot. But yeah, hell of a cliffhanger.
So that's it. That's all I think I have to talk about with this episode. So Guys, we want to hear your thoughts, though. So join us for our live later tonight at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or comment down below what you thought about this episode, anything we didn't touch on you want us to talk about. And keep your eye out for our videos on the weekend. We got some really cool stuff coming up. So make sure you're subscribed and click the notification bell icon so you don't miss those things. And like I said, if you're able to just hit that like button and join us for a live, please do so, because we want to talk with you guys in real time.
And if you do, say hey. Do it. Just be like, hey, Trekyards. We appreciate that. And support on Patreon monthly. Join the channel monthly. Super Chat anytime we're live. Or super thanks anytime. Any video. Or just, like I said, join and say hey. We do appreciate that small stuff as well. And watch the next video. Just find the next one. Watch it.
So until next time, he is Commander Cockings.
He's Captain Foley.
See you guys later.
Bye, guys.